Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Grimflayer. Hope you're all doing very well today. We're back to the gameplay videos, and we are playing some more Golgari. When we play Golgari, life is good. Life is good. But our hand is not. We're on the play, which is potentially nice, but yeah, a one-lander is not something I'm interested in keeping, at least with my opening 7. When we start mulling down a little bit more, you might not be able to be so picky, but I have a hard and fast rule of this deck that I do not keep one-landers, one-lander 7s that is, unless it's a post-side game where I really need to find my hate to have a realistic chance of winning. And in that case, I'll keep a one-lander. Otherwise, I'm going to mull a one-lander 7. You know, this hand's, it's got a lot, but it's got a lot because it only has one land. And, yeah, not a keep. This one is very slow, but it's one I'm going to keep into blind game 1. Being on the play is helpful as far as a slow hand goes, and yeah, we can't really mulligan this. We just need lands and spells. We don't know what else we need yet. Our opponent has also mulliganed, and our opponent will keep 6. Collective Brutality is definitely one I'm going to keep on top. Again, not knowing what we're against, in general, this card will be able to do something, and we'll keep it on top, so that's pretty nice, but we also are going to run out our fetch land here, for a couple reasons. Number one, if we see what they're up to, and we can tell from their turn 1, and for some reason we don't want Collective Brutality against them, we do have the option here to shuffle it away. Also, it's really nice to just run out the fetch for a lot of reasons here anyway. It gives us insulation against, you know, like, turn 1 Blood Moon shenanigans, and it conceals information, because Verdant Catacombs can be in more decks than Blooming Marsh, for example, so all those reasons we're going to run out the Catacombs to begin, even though often we'll want to hold these for Tireless Tracker. So they're going to go Scalding Tarn into Hallowed Fountain, and very, very bad for us, they're going to suspend an Ancestral Vision. So this is some kind of control deck, either blue-white or Jeskai, most likely. And yeah, they've got the old turn 1 Ancestral getting in under our discard. That's pretty much their best card against us, certainly their best early play. We will follow it up with a Brutality, no need to escalate here. We've already a little low on cards, so so we do indeed see that it's Jeskai, which makes me a little sad that I fetch and shocked there, because Jeskai's main win condition is, of course, to just kind of burn you out with Bolt, Snap Bolt, and Lightning Helix, and so forth, but I think I still might have done that anyway. They are a Path to Exile deck. They might play other effects that tax our basics. We want to leave the basics in the deck as much as possible. So, pretty clearly just going to go ahead and take the Lightning Helix here. That is just the more powerful card at the moment. Alright, they're going to play a Sulphur Falls, cast a Serum, and pass to me. Alright, yeah. Time for Liliana, the Last Hope. Now here we just want to tick her up. I don't rate blind milling with her very highly in most matchups. We just don't have that much of a creature density. Our creature density in this deck is pretty low, so we're not going to usually hit something with a blind mill. And, of course, it's even worse to tick her down against a deck with a lot of burn spells, because then they can just cleanly 1-for-1 her, and we don't want to allow them to do that. So they found a Field of Ruin, so yet another reason we were interested in leaving basics in the deck from here on out as much as we can. So here, I'm going to contradict myself and go get a Swamp. We just kind of wanted to, so, you know, we still have 4 basics in the deck. That's enough where we will get plenty of value out of whatever paths and fields they have early on. Late game, while it's nice to just get as much value as possible off those plays, it's not that big a deal. it matters to take advantage of the ramp early. And the reason I wanted to fetch there and also tap the land I fetched for is so I can leave this Collective Brutality in the bin as a Tasigur target. Now, will it matter? It will not matter, at least right now, because they're going to Logic Knot. Sure. Now I'm interested in milling with the Liliana, because this is a control deck, this is a grindy matchup, we're going to start getting advantage right away. Again, it opens us up to getting bolted, our Liliana getting bolted, that is totally fine. We're going to find an even better card to buy back than Tasigur, which is Tireless Tracker. Now, their Ancestral Vision's ticking down. Like I said, that's a very, very good card against us, but so far we're doing a lot of things that let us realistically outgrind a control deck, which has a lot of other card advantage with a turn 1 Ancestral Vision. We've already bought a card back with Liliana. If the Tireless Tracker resolves, it'll get us plenty more cards. If we can get this Tasigur back too in the future, he can help grind as well. Now, if they do want to bolt the Liliana, they're going to go shields down and no Cryptic Command for them this turn. Well, I guess they don't have Cryptic mana on the field anyway, although they do still have an island in hand, so they could have got it if they wanted to. Interesting. Alright, so they're going to Field of Ruin us on our upkeep, sure. So they have, they don't even have Logic Knot mana open, you know, they still could be playing something like a Mana Leak. That is for sure, but I think I definitely have to go for the Tracker here. Tracker resolves, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful, so of course we'll run out the fetch land. Opponent jumps the gun a little bit here, right? They should have waited for a window, potentially, if they could afford to, for me to crack the fetch. Now here, I just get to go crack the fetch in response, so feels pretty good. Now I'm interested in leaving the basics in the deck, because I've already gotten half of them out. I'm about to get a fourth one out here. You could have argued that I should have taken this Overgrown Tomb untapped. I think that is a judgment call. Pretty viable either way to leave up a clue. But the main reason I didn't is because I actually just planned to cash this Liliana in for the Tasigur anyway, and of course, Tasigur's Delve ability allows me to just cast him for 1 mana, so there I get to use my mana really efficiently. I get to leave 2 high-value targets in the bin, and I don't have to take any more pain than was necessary from my fetch lands. So here comes their Ancestral Vision. But we have done a whole lot of work in terms of, you know, keeping parity with that card. That is for sure. So they've got a handful of stuff. They're just going to play a fetch land and pass. All right. Usually you'll want to just kind of test the waters by attacking first here. Nothing wrong with that. All right. Cracking a clue, seeing what's up. Some discard would be pretty cool there. Now this is interesting. Okay, we can we can do a few different things here. We can play a land and just pass, holding up Tasigur's activation and Fatal Push, or Fatal Push plus a clue. We could crack another clue and search for, you know, more hand disruption to help us sequence more efficiently. Or we can just play Tarmogoyf and Liliana, or we can just play one of the two and see what happens. So I'm kind of in the mood to half commit here. I don't really want to run the Liliana into a probable Cryptic Command. I also don't really want to run the Tarmogoyf into a Wrath effect. But I don't know how many Wraths are likely to be in this Jeskai deck, right? So that might be a little bit safer. So I'm going to test the waters with the Tarmogoyf. If they tap out for a Cryptic Command, I can resolve the Liliana. They don't. Alright, so now they have 5 cards in hand. They probably have either a Cryptic they were patient with, or a Mana Leak, or a Logic Knot, or something. Makes me not want to play the Liliana, so I'm pretty content here to just pass with Clue and Fatal Push held up. They will go get a Steam Vents, and, you know, they are already down to 12, and we have some big, big boys on the field. Opponent's gonna tap out for a Teferi. Okay, I mean, he's definitely a good one. Let's see if I get anything good with this clue. Not particularly, although it's a decent card in the matchup. And they deploy Field of Ruin, which is going to answer the one I just found. And then they get to untap with Teferi. Sure. Then they're going to field me in the end step. They're just being very, very aggressive with these Fields of Ruin. I don't think I like that play from them. I think there's no reason for them to field me that aggressively. They must just keep thinking I'm going to run out of basics, and I'm not. That must be the logic here. And, of course, this is one reason to play a very healthy number of basics. Now, we have some pretty decent options in hand. Liliana of the Veil is, of course, one of them. But I'm actually interested in firing up Tassiger's ability here first. And yes, so here's why. I was able to mill over a creature. This is making our Tarmogoyf grow into a 5/6. Now, attacking Teferi with both creatures there would feel very bad. Ignoring Teferi totally to swing it at the opponent for 8 would also feel very bad. But I'm very happy to attack Teferi with one creature and then continue the clock with the other. Now, if our opponent gives us back the tracker here, our plans are potentially foiled, and they don't. They give us a brutality. We could have gotten around that anyway with Liliana, ticker up, discarding tracker, but we don't even have to do that now. We're just going to, move to attacks and attack according to what I just said. Make sure it all gets through just fine. And it does. Okay, very good. We still just kind of want to slam the Liliana here. She's such a high value card in the matchup. We'll tick her up. There might be an argument here for getting rid of one of the manlands, but I rate them quite highly, especially with our opponent's life total nice and low. They've got a lot to deal with, and our manlands can conceivably finish them off before they can answer our creatures and our Liliana, especially with Brutality Drain advancing their clock. So we just pitch the push. I don't think there's a whole lot that they could have that I would really need to Fatal Push. They'd probably play Snapcaster, maybe some Vendilion Click, maybe some other things, but pretty happy to ditch the push there, play the Treetop, and pass. Opponent resolves a Celestial Colonnade. They thought about tapping for something, but instead they're just going to pass. We draw Field of Ruin. All right. So now here we rate the field more highly than the Hissing Quagmire, because they have a Colonnade, so we're going to take up Picture Quagmire. Opponent pitches an island. All right, so they're pretty flooded over there. I guess we just move to attacks first. So, of course, Cryptic Command is one of the best cards they could have there, right? So if we go to the beginning of combat stage and they don't do anything, then we get to say, all right, move to attacks. If they still don't do anything, then we miss the window to animate our manland. That is okay. I don't want to spend the mana to animate a manland and then they just get to tap down all three. I think this is better. Now, if they have a piece of spot removal here, of course, they get to stay alive or something else. But if it's Cryptic, we have given them a less efficient Cryptic. Aha! Settle the Wreckage is a very good one here. And that was, I guess, another reason not to animate our manland and send it in there. So, we're going to get at least one activation out of Tassiger before he bites the dust. Milling over some stuff that's not the best. Abrupt Decay makes sense for our opponent to give to us. And here, they needed a really good play like this turn to stabilize, right? And I think this qualifies as them having stabilized. So I'm pretty happy here to just say, all right, we're gonna play the long game. We're gonna grind you out. I'm gonna get another free card with Tassiger, even if it's not a great one. We end up getting mildly punished here for not playing out our Field of Ruin first, because now we have to go field, pass, and we cannot Inquisition. That's alright. It also doesn't hurt to have, a sequence next turn where we play a flurry of small spells. That's also fine. We are out of basics because we already had one in the graveyard earlier that has been delved away. So, no more basics to be found. Looks like they're firing up the Celestial Colonnade. And they're taking Lily down to 1, sure. And they're... Okay, you know, if they bolt or helix her, I'm so totally fine with that. She's gotten me so much value. Electrolyze I'm a little less fine with, because that let them be super mana efficient and super card efficient. They got to do 1 to her, 1 to me, and draw a card. That was very, very good for them in a vacuum. That said, in context, they are now totally tapped out, and I'm ahead on cards by 2. Feels pretty good. So, they're, of course, down to 7. Let's just start off with the Inquisition, if MTGO will show us. Aha! Alright, pretty good for me to have 2 viable takes here with the Inquisition, 2 things that we care about and that Inquisition can hit. This could easily have been like a cryptic command in the land. So, definitely happy to see these cards. I'm going to take the Search for Escanto away because I can now take the Spell Snare with a Collective Brutality. And I'm going to pick Abrupt Decay because it's just narrower than Trophy. Trophy, of course, we want to keep access to, because if they rip a Planeswalker, that's very bad for us. But here, we get to turn that Decay into a Drain You for 2, putting them to 5. Then, we get to swing in with our good old Ape Village, putting them to 2, passing with Field of Ruin and Assassin's Trophy up. One or the other, at least. Alright, they're going to fire up the Colonnade. They're going to make us use the field. We're pretty happy to. Again, we don't get a basic. We're just kind of fresh out, but that's still alright. We get to turn that into a kill spell on the Colonnade. Now, they only have 3 mana up, so I'm not worried about Cryptic Command, and I draw a Tasigur. Alright, so I guess first we just try to end the game with Treetop Village, see what they do. Unless they're just making us play it out, they've got to have something here. Lightning Helix. Lightning Helix was the literal perfect answer for Treetop. Gets them up out of the range where 1 Tasigur hit does it, and of course answers the thing cleanly. So we're going to play the Tasigur again. I'm kind of rethinking how to delve here. I was just starting to kind of mindlessly delve away lands, but I'm like, no, I need to get the worst cards out of my graveyard. So that's Decay, Inquisition, Fatal Push, and then just a land, I believe that was. And, yeah, Tasigur. Tasigur is incredible here. He's gotten, our first one got us so many cards, and now we've got another one, and we've got the activation ready to go. Our opponent is at the mercy of their top deck, and they find a Timely Reinforcements. Man, they are just top decking their way out of this one, at least for now. So, yep, Timely is a very, very good one. Lines up really well against a lot of our stuff, including this trophy in hand. So we're going to mill with the Tasigur. We're going to get a Brutality back. I don't mind that. Okay. Let's mill with the Tasigur again. A reason to do this now is because they're probably going to give us a card we don't want, and we can turn it into value with the Brutality. So, attack with the Tazzy. Sure, jump block as expected. And yeah, we just once again get to escalate once with the Brutality for a drain. This time, instead of duressing their empty hand, we will kill a token. We don't quite get to hold up Trophy here, but surely they won't punish us with a top-decked Planeswalker. Not quite, but Hieroglyphic Illuminations to draw 2 is definitely not bad. Field of Ruin is a good one as always. And 1 Unknown in hand, 1 Lonely Chump Blocker holding off the Tasigur. You know, once again, they're really aggressive with the fields here. At least now they know I'm out of basics, but, you know, maybe they should still be forcing us to sink mana into the Quagmire. Here, I'm going to float mana in response and just activate Tasigur. Again, like, we're just assuming, even though we kind of had them on the ropes and within a turn of the kill, we just have to assume that the game is going on even longer here, so we have to just keep getting cards. Worth noting that we're down to 20 cards in the deck, though. That is definitely a thing to keep an eye on. Yep. Field will make a search, but we have nothing to find. Ooh, Liliana's a good one. So we'll try to clear the way with Thoughtseize here. See what they've got. They're going to Helix us in response. Alright, you know, they've ripped Helix into Timely reinforcements into hieroglyphic illuminations to find a helix in 3 turns. They have gained 12 life, pretty good, and have presented a bunch of chumpers as well. Lily of the Veil's really nice here because we get to just edict away this thing, and now she's just a problem for them. Of course, we don't want to take up because we want to hang on to this Assassin's Trophy. They find a Serum Visions. It's probably pretty good. Alright, they're going to Cryptic Command to bounce the Taziger and draw a card in their main phase. That's a very aggressive Cryptic, but I guess they were hoping to find exactly what they found, which is a burn spell to take care of the Lily. Doesn't make sense that they were digging for a Planeswalker to play main phase because they would not have the mana left to do so. So they're taking some pretty aggressive lines here, I must say, but, you know, they got rewarded for it there, that is for sure. That said, we're going to just draw Tarmogoyf off the top. And once again, delve away our least desirable cards with the Tassiger. I'm pretty happy here to just slam the Goyf and say, alright, let's make you have something. We know they have Settle the Wreckage, they might have some Wraths, they might have another Cryptic Command. They're going to give us back another Goyf, that's interesting. That actually makes me a little bit more reassured to just, you know, get potentially 2 for 1 here, but I do get to clear the way with an Inquisition of Kozilek. That was a pretty decent draw. They found a Snapcaster Mage. Man, if they had just bricked for 1 of any of these turns, I think we would be putting the game away right now, or already have put the game away. But not to be. Now, they target Hieroglyphic Illuminations here, so no Cryptic Command target. That is very ballsy from them. That's how I would phrase it. Very ballsy. And here, of course, Hieroglyphic Illuminations doesn't help them against Trophy unless they want to cast it in response and try to find a Logic Knot off of it, maybe. So I'm pretty interested in just clearing away the blocker here of this Trophy. They draw 2. This gets trophied. Alright, opponent, what have you got? They found a path off of the Illuminations. Man, oh man. They are doing it. Now, we could have activated the Taziger in a response there, and maybe, you know, there's an argument for that, but at this point I'm like, alright, you're at 2. How many more outs can you realistically draw? I'm just going to play another Tarmogoyf and say, beat this. Beat these 2 Tarmogoyfs. And they cannot. So, wow. Wow. That was a heck of a game. We had looked like we just turned the corner, and we're going to kind of just about deterministically win, but then they stayed alive with a Helix on our treetop, then they found timely reinforcements, then they found a draw 2 into another Helix, and they just answered our stuff. Now, we did find some gas of our own, that is for sure. Liliana, Tarmogoyf, Tassiger, these Inquisition even, these cards were just fine off the top. But we really had to leverage basically every tool of card advantage at our disposal to be far enough ahead where they had to top deck the nuts to stay in it, and then we had to be far enough ahead also to not get buried by their rips off the top. So definitely an example of how even our early Tireless Tracker, which didn't last very long, getting us those 2 clues right off the fetch land, that proved to be pretty huge. The Tazigers, of course, drew us so many cards over the course of the game, it's not even funny. And again, we found the brutalities to leverage even our bad cards, turning them into enough value to close out this game. So, good game. That ate up a ton of clock, and note that I am about a minute behind, and I only really started noticing that near the end of this game. So I'm going to have to play the next game potentially pretty quickly. We'll see how it goes. But let's head over to the sideboard, see how we want to change things up against Jeskai Control. Alright, my friends, sideboard against Jeskai now. They showed me Snapcaster Mage, and they look like the type of deck structurally that's going to play a high number of Snapcaster. So I am interested right off the bat in Nile Spellbomb. Now, just from experience against control matchups, this is one of those archetypes where it seems like we have more we want to bring in than we are able to take out. We have a lot of slots. So both Nile's Spellbomb is perfectly legitimate here. It's actually quite good. We saw Search for Iskanta as well. That helps them, requires them to have a graveyard in order to flip. So both Spellbombs are perfectly fine, but due to a paucity of slots available, we're going to just put one for sure and one in the maybe board right now. Maelstrom Pulse is also a maybe board card, again, for that same reason. They didn't show us... They showed us a Teferi, they didn't show us Jace. The only other permanents were Search and Snapcaster. So, yeah, Pulse is good. It's got a lot of good targets. It's one of our best answers to a big Planeswalker, but... again, for the same reason, maybe board that. Golgari Charm is just a little bit too narrow. It's actually pretty reasonable, all things considered. This can kill Snapcasters, it can kill their tokens, it can kill Vendilion Click if they play it, it can destroy Search for Iskanta, and Regen can kind of counter a burn spell on one of our things. That said, all of those modes are slightly on the cute side, and it's playable, but again, with slots at a premium, I'm just going to say no to this straight up. Same with Engineered Explosives. Again, it can kill Search, Snap tokens, but we're not interested. Doesn't hit enough. Fulminator Mage we do want. This is a matchup where we are going to be attacking their land base with both Fulminator and Choke. Choke obviously comes in. Fulminator is actually more appealing as a threat here than it is against blue-white control because they rely a lot on bolting and helixing things to keep the board clear. So even if Fulminator is just a 2/2 chump attacker, if they have so many lands that his Stone Rain effect doesn't matter, that's actually more desirable, arguably, here than against blue-white control. Of course, Choke is amazing against any blue control variant. That's mainly why the card is in our deck, and we will certainly be slamming it here. Nissa Vital Force is also a must-have against any control deck. She is easily countered, but they don't always have counter magic and or mana open. They do have to be proactive too. They have to tap out for threats, and our threat here is just going to do everything we want out of a threat in this matchup. It ends the game really quickly. If left unchecked, it grinds well in two different ways. The -3 and the -6 are both amazing grindy cards, good in different situations. No to Obstinate Baloth. Our life total matters, but not to the point where we're siding in clunky life gain cards. For a similar reason, I don't want Kalidas. The sweeper effects are obviously not good against control. Collective Brutality, I do want. This card often just generally comes in against control decks for the Duress style effect. And the Drain is a little bit more appealing against Jeskai specifically than it is against most control decks, because again, they are kind of on the counterburn plan to some degree. Bolt, Snap, Bolt being a primary win condition. So, Collective Brutality is quite nice, and Duress is also a must-have in these matchups. It's going to hit everything that Brutality hits, plus it can take Planeswalker, Search for Iskanta, you name it, this card will hit it. It's very, very good. No to Surgical Extraction. Surgical is a trap against Snapcaster-based decks. Now, if they had some kind of a combo alongside Snapcasters, like if it was a combo deck playing Snapcaster mages, Surgical would then be good, but you would be bringing it in mostly to take them off of the combo, and only as a distant secondary effect to potentially mess with their Snapcaster. But that's not a very good use case for reasons I have gone into before. So 6 for sure. If we can, we might even not quite be able to fit 6, and then 2 maybe board. 7, no thank you. What can we take out? What can we take out? Well, even though they have some targets for Fatal Push, we're just going to take out 4 Fatal Push. That's a great place to start against a control deck. Nope, not 1 Inquisition. 4 Fatal Push. There we go. Very good. So I already really like this. Can we find 2 more slots for things that we do not love? Well, let's just go through it really quickly, line by line. Tasigur is completely incredible. Both Lilianas are completely incredible. Tireless Tracker, completely incredible. Maelstrom Pulse is not as incredible, but a fine card. You know, obviously we're trying to bring one in. We won't cut this one. Collective Brutality, completely incredible. Ooze is very, very good. I think we want all three still. We've brought in kind of 1.5 threats, so maybe we're supposed to cut a threat here. And as much as Ooze is nice in certain windows, it's also kind of bad in other windows. They're doing a lot of exiling too, right? They're playing Path to Exile, they're playing Settle the Wreckage. There just might not be that many creatures around for an Ooze to eat. And if that's the case, then it lines up way more poorly than any of our other threats against their Lightning Bolts and Lightning Helixes. That said, it's still very good. It can mess with Snapcaster, it can keep their graveyard clear of Snapcaster targets, stop Azcanta from transforming. It is a threat still, even if it might lack food. But we can put one in the maybe to come out category. Tarmogoyf is amazing. Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay is a maybe. We could also consider cutting an Assassin's Trophy here. This card's great. Obviously, at instant speed, it hits all their Planeswalkers, but we really don't want to see them early in this matchup. It's not a matchup where they're going to go under us, so we're fine ramping them early just to stay alive. We definitely don't want to see these early, so even though it's strong, I think we can cut one here. And otherwise, you know, our Thoughtseizes and Inquisitions, in my opinion, just have to stay in. Like, this card in our deck is very, very good against control. So we can cut 2 of these 3 cards and call it good, and you can do whatever you want here. I think for this particular video, I cut a Scooz and a Trophy and kept my Abrupt Decay in. It can just be nice, you know, to hit the Search for Azcanta early without ramping them, unlike Trophy. That's quite good. Obviously, killing stuff like Vendilion Click through counter magic when that matters is fine. You could very easily say we should cut this and leave an Ooze or a Trophy in, though. But either way, I would be looking to roll with something like this. And yeah, so pretty confident in that sideboarding, but if you have any dissenting opinions or alternative suggestions, as always, please feel free to let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, let's head over to Game 2, and we'll be on the draw. Alright, my friends, Game 2 against Jeskai Control. We are on the draw. Our opponent has kept 7, and we're going to keep 7 as well. Obviously, we need to hit a 3rd land drop by turn 3, ideally, because we really, really want to try to get this Liliana down under counter magic. And the earlier the better, because from turn 4 on, they could be on Cryptic Command, right? So, double Inquisition in the opener is fantastic. Turn 2 Tarmogoyf is fantastic. We have a catch-all answer. Yeah, pretty great. No basics in the opener is nice, too. We want to leave them in the deck. We've got everything. Field of Ruin's a great tool in the matchup. We just need to hit a couple land drops and keep hitting gas. Totally happy to keep this one. Opponent goes Colonnade, pass. Alright, we're drawing more discard. Definitely not mad to see that, although, of course, the need for lands remains just as strong as it once was. Now, we have only one take with the Inquisition, and that's why you usually use the Inquisition as soon as you can. It would have felt very bad to just for some reason Thoughtseize them this turn, and then our Inquisitions are just dead in hand unless they draw more low curve stuff. So we take the Search because that's all we can take. They have 2 very powerful top end cards in the form of Cryptic Command and Keranos, God of Storms, which is a very tough one for our deck to beat. Indestructible is just very, very bad for us, and something that grinds really well like that, not what we want to see. Did our opponent find anything they want to do in the main phase? No, they did not. So we draw a Verdant Catacombs. That's pretty cool, and it makes me want to, you know, just figure out what our best line here. Now, we could go Thoughtseize here and just kind of take away both their high-end things. That's totally fine, but Now I am less in need of being on the... Excuse me, sorry. Let me rephrase everything, because I misspoke. I only have one Thoughtseize, right? So that changes things even more. So as far as we know, there is no Inquisition target in their hand. So we could just Thoughtseize, and maybe they'll have an Inquisition target, then we can fetch a dual land probably, and then Inquisition them. Sure, that's not a bad line. But if they didn't draw a low curve spell... Now, if they did draw a low curve spell, it's probably something they could have done main phase like Serum Visions. They can do in response like Opt. You know, maybe it's a red spell, it's stranded in hand, that's fine. But all things considered, we want to be mana efficient. We want to get on the Tarmogoyf plan as soon as possible. This is, of course, the proactive play. It's going to pressure them. And next turn, we can try the Liliana. If Liliana doesn't resolve, at least the Tarmogoyf is getting gigantic. And then at least our Inquisition is more likely to be live the following turn. We still have Thoughtseize to at least get that Keranos out of their hand. We don't need the Liliana to stick around to win this game, probably. Again, with the really aggressive Fields of Ruin. Like, okay, you know, fair enough. And they're going to go get a Plains instead of a red source, which means they probably have a Path to Exile. But it also means that our Liliana for sure can resolve. So we're going to make them have a path, and we're going to main phase the Lily to just kind of grow the Goyf here as much as possible. Maybe they'll pitch another card type here for the Goyf. They don't. He's still just a 3/4, but that's fine. It's still a good clock. And they don't have a path. Interesting. All right. I guess they just kind of... already had the red land and wanted double white. Celestial Purge for the Lily. Okay, fair enough. That's a good answer to her. Like I said, if they deal with her one way or another, at least the Tarmogoyf can grow. So first up, we're going to Thoughtseize them. Alright, so they still just have Cryptic and Keranos as payoff cards. They also have a Field of Ruin. Next turn, they can go land into Keranos. That's very, very, very bad for us. We just have to take Keranos. It's not a card we're likely to beat. Although I did beat it in my video against Blue Moon. But that was because I also had a choke. And he couldn't do anything with all of the cards he was drawing because he was choked out. So under normal circumstances, very tough for us to beat. Also gets us the enchantment type in the graveyard, so our Tarmogoyf is all of a sudden a nice healthy 5/6. And we're going to crack in. And we get to hold up Field of Ruin or Decay or Trophy. Pretty good. So here, of course, I'm going to fetch up an Overgrown Tomb, get those out of my deck, leave my basics in. No need to aggressively shock ourselves there to Field of Ruin. Like, I'm less aggressive with my fields than our opponent is, that's for sure. Ideally, I want to make them invest mana into the Colonnade, and then I'll hit it with the Field of Ruin. So here, you know, you could Thoughtseize first, you could Goyf first. You know, we're just going to make him have something here. We're going to test the waters with an attack. It's not like we're not going to attack anyway, right? So they're going to Cryptic Command to bounce the Goyf and draw a card. That is totally fine with me. Tarmogoyf is easy to recast. It gets the Cryptic out of their hand. And now I get to Thoughtseize them with their shields down. See what they've got. Lightning Bolt, Field of Ruin. Nothing that really frightens me. So, of course, we're going to just play the Goyf back down. We're going shields down on our Trophy or Decay for a turn, but hey. Totally fine. Totally fine. Alright, Inquisition of Kozilek's a draw. Once again, we'll just kind of get in with the Goyf first. Another Cryptic Command to bounce and draw. Alright, they're certainly staying in it. When you chain Cryptics like this, it's a good way to... Ooh, there's a Teferi. Yikes. It's a good way to just buy time and keep seeing cards and all that good stuff that blue control decks are generally interested in doing. Now, here I could say, alright, they've got a Teferi, I'm supposed to just pass with the Assassin's Trophy up. I don't know. I'm going to play the Tarmogoyf because I expect him to want to try to rebuild his hand here. So play the Teferi, tick it up, because Teferi, you know, as good as it is, it's just fine as a card that replaces itself and gains him 5 life at this point, right? And he could always, like, find a path or something off of it to protect the Teferi. That said, I get a little bit punished here because he just minuses to tuck the Tarmogoyf, which is also a fine play. Not too distraught over that. I just get to kind of trophy the Teferi. I don't really have any choice but to do so. And I'm just going to pass. I might have to fire up the Field of Ruin here and shuffle away my Goyf. Ooh, search for Azcanta. Okay. That's a pretty good one. So they're going to fire up the Colonnade. Yep. I'm just going to field this thing, get it out of the way. You know, I do shuffle away my Goyf, but I don't want to take 4. Because then, you know, I'm starting to get into realistic Bolt Snap Bolt style range, and nobody wants that, right? So we'll field the Colonnade. Tireless Tracker, alright, never great to play that out without land backing it up, but I think I'm supposed to just run it out here, get it in under counter magic, make them find some kind of an answer to it, at least stop them from aggressively fielding me, so much like they are fond of doing. They're going to rip a Serum Visions off the top. That's a good one when they have all this land to play with. But their draw of the Visions was just a Flooded Strand. Now, we're going to draw Fulminator Mage. Not very exciting here. Like I said in the sideboard guide, there are windows in which you're just not really taking them off any land. So right now, this is just a Grey Ogre that can turn into a Doomblade for a Celestial Colonnade if they find one. But at least we get to crack in with a 3-2 here. That's definitely a thing, and at least exposing this, you know, is going to get us some value against a sweeper effect if they have one, whether it be Settle the Wreckage or Supreme Verdict. I can at least kill a land in response. I'm not that overextended. Alright, so they went top, by the way, with that Serum Visions last turn, and they topped a Lightning Helix, which is, of course, very good right now against the Tireless Tracker. Duress is very bad at the moment. This does happen, even though you want to bring in a few more discard effects than is stock in the main deck, you can get punished for top decking them when both players are empty-handed. They suspend an Ancestral Vision. Okay, so all of a sudden we have the incentive to close the game out really quickly. Now you'll notice I was slightly over a minute behind on the clock when this game began, and now I've just about closed that gap by playing a little bit quicker than my opponent. Yep, opponent loves these aggro Fields of Ruin, sure. I'll go get a land on my upkeep, that is fine. I think they should be draw stepping these, if anything, but whatever. All good. Then they're just going to go fetch. Alright, Spellbomb is an okay draw here. I think, as nice as it is to hold this up to kind of blank opposing Snapcasters, force them to rot in hand, the Ancestral Vision taking down is the big kind of time bomb for this match. So I'm just going to crack it, clear out their yard, making future snaps and searches worse, and I get to draw off of it as well. And I get to draw Tarmogoyf, so I am very rewarded for that play, because playing a Tarmogoyf one turn sooner than I would have naturally is quite good. So they're facing lethal on board, and they're at the mercy of this top deck here. Okay, they're just going to pass, and it's a Path to Exile. They're going to draw step it this time, and they're going to draw step the path. Yep, that's pretty good. You know, that when they've got the top deck firing, they've got the top deck firing. Not much we can do there. We draw Collective Brutality for turn, which is pretty okay. Kind of doubles our clock here, which is cool. So yeah, just simply drain them for 2. No point to pitch that Duress right now. 2 turns left on the Ancestral Vision, so they better come up with something else good off the top here. And it's a Lightning Bolt, so they're staying in it. Staying in it for sure. These Paths and Bolts are very good top decks, but at the same time they're not as bad as like a Jace Teferi or a Hieroglyphic Illumination into those spot removal spells, so I can't complain too much, but still, you know, the opponent's definitely doing it. We're going to brick. We're going to draw Blooming Marsh. That's so bad. so bad here with the vision ticking down, 1 turn away. Our opponent will pass. Overgrown Tomb. Yep, pretty bad. Pretty bad. Just play out a marsh here because we still have a landfall trigger in hand if we find a tracker and somehow resolve it now through 5 cards? Yeah, 5 cards. Alright, they'll play a Steam Vents. They'll play a Serum Visions. And they'll pass with a bunch of mana open. And we brick yet again. So at least I'm going to duress them here. You could argue that I'm supposed to hold this back, you know, until I have another spell to try to force this through, but I'm just worried about them having some kind of Planeswalker here. Maybe they have like a Teferi or a Jace. I guess it would be Jace, where they didn't want to go shields down in case I just have like a Brutality off the top to kill them, but next turn they'll be able to Jace and then hold up counter magic, right? So I'm just going to duress them here. And our opponent is going to Logic Knot us for 7. Sure, fair enough. No duress for me. I'll play out another land. They will as well. They'll pass. I mean, when we have them on the ropes and they draw, you know, the exact efficient answers, like a path on the turn they needed to deal with a Goyf and then a bolt after that for Fulminator, and even the opposite order I would have won here. But when they're drawing the right answers and then they've got vision ticking down and I just draw 4 lands straight, there is not much we can do. And this does happen. This does definitely happen. That is for certain. They've got a Teferi. Alright, this game is just pretty much over unless I draw Brutality and they somehow don't have counter magic. And we draw yet another land. Now, this game is officially over. However, you will note, look at the time gap. All of this clawing back into the game my opponent has been doing has put them now over a minute and a half behind. So, even though it's not the ideal way we want to win games, the clock is definitely a real factor. And our deck has at least forced our opponent to go to these great lengths to still be in the series at all, right? So we've kind of earned this clock advantage. Again, we don't ever really want to just try to win by the clock. It's just not ideal. But yeah, so we're going to make, even though this game, in my opinion, is lost, we're going to play it out and make them have it. So we'll start out by attacking with the Quagmire. They've got a path for it. We expect them to have answers to everything, but we're just going to run down the clock. Play out the Scoos. They've got Cryptic Command, sure thing. And now they do have to actually win the game. Teferi is going to, like, you know, just take all our lands away over time and be able to exile basically for free any creatures we find, but they still have to win the game. We're at 17. So here is just an exercise in just running down the clock. Not very exciting. I'm going to kind of fly through these turns here because you know what I'm up to. They're going to Helix us. Sure. And they have to discard to hand size. Pitching a Rest in Peace. Okay, that's good to know about for Game 3. We've got a Tasigur, but I'm just going to sandbag it. There's no reason to play that out quite yet, I guess. They cash in the Teferi for the emblem, and now they get to start exiling everything. Yeah, Maelstrom Pulse will just keep passing, keep running down the clock. We're ahead by quite a bit now. And they're going to get their clock going, snap Lightning Helix. Yep. They'll exile a dual land. They'll crack in for 2. Alright, we're going to try to start playing some stuff out. This just extends the game, extends the clock. Pulse gets negated. Let's try a Tasigur. Definitely don't expect it to resolve, but it does. Alright, well, they've got a path for it anyway, and they also had the draw step exile with a Teferi emblem. So we'll activate the Tasigur in response. Get back a Nile Spellbomb. Sure. So I expect them to have another negate or like snap negate or something here, so I don't even bother running it out. Maybe I should have just made them have it, but yeah, they had snap, so they could have snap negated. Here they get to snap bolt. Doesn't matter really what I just did. I'm just dead either way. And yeah. They'll play a Rest in Peace. Okay. Sure. They're going to exile a bunch of stuff, then they're going to Helix us, and they're going to get in for 2. So, now at the end of all that, that's a lot of game actions they had to take, even though I clicked through them really quickly. They have less than a minute left on the clock, we have almost 5. So being conscious of the clock is the big lesson here, because even though they kind of miraculously top-decked, I shouldn't say miraculously, I don't want to sell their deck short. They are a blue-based control deck. They top-deck very well. They're one of the few decks that can realistically out-top-deck us, in the late game. Fair enough. That said, we were still on the receiving end of some pretty rough top decks, some pretty ideal top decks from their situation, in the times they needed them to be, at least. So, even though that kind of happened both games 1 and 2, and in game 2 their top decks were strong enough and ours were bad enough where they actually got the win, because we were aware of the clock and because we are using the clock to our advantage, we now cannot lose this series. We just have to play quickly next game. They're a control deck that can't kill us in under a minute of game time. The game has been won. That said, I'm going to show you game 3, because our opponent is going to give it the old college try, and hey, good for them. I'm game if they are. So, hey, let's go to game 3 and at least get a sense of how it would play out, just for more insight into this matchup. And, even though the match is already in the bag, we can still have a little fun here in game 3. Okay, everybody, game 3, the game that is already a deterministic win for us as long as we don't play too slowly, and we've got a fine hand. Hand's totally fine. Turn 1 Inquisition, clearing the way for turn 3 Lily on the play is just great. We've got one of our big sideboard bombs as well, so sure. We're going to Inquisition. Now, some of these decisions were a little bit hasty again because I'm just trying to not lose to my own clock here. So, Path, Timely, Purge, those are some pretty reasonable cards there. I took Timely Reinforcements away because I don't care if they purge the Lily, because I'm not going to be able to just empty my hand with the Lily anyway, with Anissa in hand coming down at most 2 turns later, possibly more if I don't hit my land drops on time. So they go Colonnade Pass, and of course I didn't take Path yet because the first Path to Exile is fine for us in my opinion, and I don't have anything yet to Path anyway. So there's a Tireless Tracker. That's a great one. Great one in the matchup. No two ways about it. They're not going to... See, I think that's a mistake from our opponent. If they didn't want to shock themselves, fair enough. I would at least have run out that Plains to represent, Monolith or Celestial Purge for my Lily. That said, they are, of course, just flying through their turn, so I will not judge any of their plays here too harshly. And we have Fulminator Mage, which is the perfect draw here, because, again, we don't want to really get on the Lily plan at all right now, because our hand is just too good to discard anything from it. And Tireless Tracker being exposed without a land to follow it up is never good. So we just get to Fulminator, get the Colonnade, feels great, and now we draw another Lily. Okay, that's fine, but I would still rather lead on the Tracker into the fetch land. This will resolve. This is just going so well for us. And, they missed a window here to Path in response. We both kind of misplayed, I guess. I should have held up that activation. They should have Pathed in response to the fetch land activation. Either way, we're both kind of flying through the turn, so that explains that. But we get 2 clues out of the Tracker, and we get to ramp with it. So, again, even though this game is deterministically won, we are doing very well for ourselves here. This is a game that I think we would be well on the way to winning, even if the clock wasn't going to win it for us. So, we're going to Thoughtseize them. Holy moly, do they have a ton of gas in hand. Ton of gas. But they're stuck on 3 land. So, Keranos is a card that we will struggle to beat, but they're pretty far away from casting it. Snapcaster Mage is always a reasonable take. Celestial Purge with our Lilianas is a reasonable take as well. Hieroglyphic Illuminations is a draw too. That's definitely not a bad one to take away. And then, of course, Helix is always solid. So you could take literally any of these cards, and I think it would be justifiable. That's how diverse and powerful their hand is. But again, they are way behind on the board and on the clock. as well. So we're just going to take a Purge because it kills our Lily, and we're just going to go on the Planeswalker plan. So Lily, tick her up, pitch our other Lily. Next turn we get to deploy the Nissa. Feels good, man. Feels good. Also ensures that they cannot do anything with their mana this turn unless they want to just flash in a Snapcaster Mage. They'll get rid of the Keranos for us. I'm definitely fine with that, even though I think it's the right call for them. They're going to Helix the Liliana and then pass. Didn't make a 4th land drop. Yeah, we're just going to win this game. Nissa Vital Force. Tick it up. Get in for 5 with a Forest. Tick up the Lily, accomplishing the same thing as our Duress would anyway, just about, while adding loyalty to our Planeswalker and being free of charge. There goes their other advantage engine. Man, we are just so far ahead it's not even funny. They still don't have a 4th land drop they get to pass. That turn 3 Fulminator Mage was completely backbreaking. So we'll play a Field of Ruin, then we'll take up the Lily. Life is good. There goes a negate. You know, you could argue for any number of plays here. We could have just cashed in the Nissa, right? And then started drawing cards off of that first Field of Ruin land drop, and then take the Lily up. You know, like, it's just a million different lines you could take here, but instead we're going to crack a clue, we're going to fire up our Swamp, get in for 5. Again, remember I'm playing on the quick side here, too. We're going to try to resolve a Taziger, delving away the bad cards. Man, we've just got it all. We're even holding up a clue activation, and they still don't have a 4th land. Wow. Alright, Trophy, Brutality, sure, we're just doing everything. Will Brutality take away a Serum Visions? Crack in for 10. We have a Nissa on 8. We could have trophied in there and then hit the Lily up, but this is also fine too. Again, this game is just pretty much over. So they're going to snap Path, sure. They're at 4 life, though. So holding the trophy here means they're dead, but we don't even have to use it, because we just get to Edict away their Snapcaster with Liliana, and then crack in with a 5/5, and the game is over. So that was a comprehensive demolition of Jeskai control in Game 3. Like I said, we were already going to win with the clock. We could have just played really quickly through our turns, and we wouldn't have even gotten that low. Like, I was trying to play out the game to see what would happen, and also to get better content for this channel, so I actually ended up going down below a minute myself. Definitely didn't have any need for that. We were way further ahead than that on the clock, but this just showed us how we can just, especially on the play, when we see some sideboard cards like Fulminator Mage and Nissa Vital Force, we can just completely destroy a control deck in a pretty rapid fashion, and with plenty of advantage to spare, both in terms of board presence and in terms of cards in hand. So, what a fun series that was. We had some really back and forth games 1 and 2. Both games, I sensed pretty strongly that we had the victory. In both games, they surprised me by clawing their way back into it. Now, Game 1, we eventually got through them thanks to the sheer volume of cards bought back by Taziger the Golden Fang, and eventually I was just able to have enough, just one more threat than they could answer is what finally did it. Finally broke that parity there that they'd been desperately maintaining for the whole match. And then Game 2, similar thing. I felt we had the win in the bag, and then they top-decked the answers they needed, and then we just bricked 4 turns in a row. Hey, that's a risk we take when we play 25 lands. You know, we do flood statistically more often than most other decks will, even though it's still not that bad, and it's not that common, and we have a lot of value to get out of our excess lands with Fields and Manlands and Tireless Tracker and Liliana and Collective Brutality. It goes on. And Nissa. Still, the floods can happen, and the flood happened at the wrong place and the wrong time for us in Game 2. And then Game 3 was a really kind of fun match where we were both just flying through the turns, and look, we ended up just wrecking really, really hard with a pretty ideal progression of Inquisition into Manland, into Fulminator Mage, this is all on the play, into Tracker for double clue, into Liliana, into Nissa. Like, that is a progression that very few control decks can tangle with, and we proved that there. So this was a nice showcase of a lot of different things that can happen against a deck like Jeskai Control when we are on Golgari. We want to really respect their ability to claw their way back into games, stabilize with some life gain, and then out-top deck us. Those are realistic scenarios. So I think the takeaway here is that our sideboard cards are great in that we want to err on the side of card advantage by really taking advantage of things like Tireless Tracker and Tassiger while they're around, because they will not necessarily stick around for all that long. So while we have them, make your land drops, get as many clues as possible, and get as many activations as is realistically feasible with the Tassiger. In my opinion, that is the key to success when you're in a close match against a deck like this. So, good games, well played to the opponent. It was a lot of fun. And as always, to everybody out there watching, thank you so much. My subscriber count has doubled in the last, I believe, 2 days, maybe 3, but either 2 or 3 days ago, I was at 51 subscribers. Maybe it was 2.5 days ago or so. I was at 51. Now I'm over 100. Just completely amazing. And lots of likes, lots of comments as always. I love to hear them. And yeah, so thank you. Means a lot to me. And yeah, stay tuned to the channel. More gameplay coming up. November update to this deck coming up. And I will see you for the next one. Thanks again, and have a great day.